During dinner, my billionaire son asked, "Why don't you live in the house I bought for you?" I froze completely, my heart sinking deeply in utter shock. What house? I never received any house whatsoever. He turned and looked directly at my daughter, the seemingly perfect and always caring sister who had appeared so loyal to the entire family. She turned deathly pale, suddenly jumped up from her seat, and ran straight out the door, leaving behind a thick silence that clearly predicted the total destruction of everything we held dear. The marinara sauce had been simmering gently for 3 full hours on the stove. I stirred it one last time, checked my phone yet again. Still no text from David, and wiped down the kitchen counter for the 5th time that evening. If you're watching this story, please subscribe to the channel, like button, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. My son was driving up all the way from Seattle, and I hadn't seen him in more than a full year. The pasta water finally rolled into a vigorous boil just as my phone buzzed with a new message. "Parking now. It smells absolutely incredible even from the street." I grinned warmly, turned the heat down slightly, and went immediately to unlock the front door. David came through first, carrying a premium bottle of wine that probably cost far more than my entire weekly grocery budget. He wrapped me in a strong hug that actually lifted my feet clear off the ground. 68 years old and still cooking amazing meals for your kids, I said with a chuckle when he finally set me down. "You're the best chef anywhere in Tacoma," he replied sincerely, then spotted the old stack of theater playbills carefully kept on my shelf. "You really kept every single one of those. 35 years devoted to theater simply doesn't vanish overnight." Victoria arrived about 15 minutes later, with Charles walking closely behind her. She kissed my cheek softly, handed me a package of store-bought cookies, and complimented my modest apartment in that slightly exaggerated tone people use when they're trying far too hard to sound polite. Charles shook my hand briefly without ever making proper eye contact, and quickly asked where the bathroom was. We all settled around my small kitchen table in the apartment. I'd pulled in an extra folding chair so that all 4 of us could fit comfortably together. The pasta came out absolutely perfect that evening. David immediately launched into exciting stories about his growing AI startup company. He spoke about advanced machine learning techniques and a recent Series B funding round that went completely over my head. Victoria nodded along attentively, perfectly playing the role of the supportive sister, asking every single right question at the right moment. 4 more intense weeks, David said while neatly twirling spaghetti on his fork. But we just successfully closed the funding round, so things should finally start to calm down. "Must be nice," Charles muttered quietly under his breath. Having that kind of money to spend freely on startups. The entire table suddenly went uncomfortably quiet for a long beat. I quickly jumped in with a light comment about dessert choices, but David was already smoothly shifting the conversation forward. "So, Dad, I've been meaning to ask you this for a while now." He carefully set down his fork on the plate. "Why haven't you moved into the house yet? It's already been a whole year since I sent the money." My wine glass tilted dangerously in my trembling hand. A few drops of red wine splashed onto the tablecloth. "What house are you even talking about, the one located in Bellevue?" David looked genuinely confused and worried. "I wired Victoria $800,000 last March specifically for the purchase. You mentioned wanting something nice in that neighborhood near the lake area. Remember that discussion? Victoria handled every detail because I was totally overwhelmed with the company launch back then." The whole room seemed to spin around me. My reading glasses slowly slid down my nose. I never knew anything about this at all. "Victoria, what exactly is he referring to?" Her fork clattered loudly against her plate. The sharp sound rang out like a gunshot in the sudden heavy silence. Her face drained completely of color, turning truly white as if someone had pulled all the blood right out of her skin. We should go now. Charles, we really need to leave immediately. She stood up so abruptly that her chair scraped harshly backward across the linoleum floor. Charles grabbed her arm tightly, but she was already moving quickly toward the door, fumbling desperately with her purse. Victoria, please sit back down, Charles said firmly, his voice carrying that sharp edge people get when they're desperately trying to control a situation already spiraling away. Let's just talk this through. I forgot something important in the car. She bolted out regardless. Those expensive designer heels that probably cost $400 caught awkwardly on my doorframe. One moment, she was fleeing the scene. The next, she performed a dramatic pratfall worthy of any community theater comedy. Her high-end Prada bag hit the hardwood floor with a heavy thud that I'm certain reduced its value by another $500 instantly. All the contents scattered everywhere across the floor. 3 different lipsticks rolled directly under my couch. A vape pen skidded quickly across the hardwood surface. Designer sunglasses cracked sharply against the baseboard wall. And there, spread out like clear and accusing evidence, were official papers and documents with seals and typed text, plus a set of keys that jingled as they landed. I bent down slowly and picked everything up carefully. A small tag dangled from the keyring. 12845 Northeast 85th Street. Bellevue, Washington. Charles moved faster than I'd seen him move in the past 10 years of family dinners. Pure adrenaline clearly kicked in when your wife's grand theft gets suddenly exposed right over pasta. He grabbed Victoria firmly by the arm, practically lifting her completely off the ground, and they rushed out the door before I could even stand up straight. The apartment door slammed hard behind them. The place fell into total silence except for the sound of David's heavy breathing right behind me. I picked up one of the scattered documents. My hands shook so much that the text blurred before my eyes. David gently took it from me and held it up closer to the light. 12845 Northeast 85th Street. His voice sounded hollow and distant. Purchase date, March 22nd, 2024. Buyer, Victoria Ann Thompson. Purchase price $800,000 exactly. He looked up at me with deep pain. Dad, did you have any idea about this? I've never laid eyes on these papers in my entire life. She stole from both of us outright. The words came out flat, but undeniably factual. From you because that house was always meant to be yours. From me because I was the one who actually paid for it. I desperately wanted to say something hopeful about possible explanations or simple misunderstandings, or insist that Victoria would never do anything like this. But my mouth couldn't form any words amid the scattered wreckage on my floor. 3 lipsticks, a vape pen, cracked designer sunglasses, and right there, keys to an $800,000 house that I apparently did not own. At least she demonstrated good taste in her choice of theft targets. David began pacing behind me, phone already in hand, pulling up his bank transaction records. I remained leaning against the kitchen counter. The property deed lay spread out directly in front of me. The pasta had grown completely cold in its serving bowl. The marinara sauce slowly developed a thick skin on the surface. My finger gently traced Victoria's familiar signature on the document. Those same elegant loops and graceful curves that I had patiently guided with my own hand over hers when she was just 7 years old, practicing her name on wide-ruled notebook paper. David started mentioning lawyers, police reports, and possible fraud charges, but my eyes suddenly caught something else tucked in the stack of documents. Small, handwritten margin notes in Victoria's careful and precise script. A second property address, also located in Bellevue, with a purchase date from the same period last March. My daughter hadn't merely stolen one house from us. She had cleverly hidden the original theft while simultaneously buying herself an entirely different one. The true scale of her betrayal doubled instantly in my mind. Neither of us managed to sleep much that night. By 7 o'clock the next morning, we were already back at the small kitchen table with fresh coffee brewing. All the documents were spread out between us on the table, and both our mugs had begun forming wet rings on the important papers. "Look right here at this detail," David said quietly, tapping the purchase date line with his finger. "March 22nd, 2024. I sent the wire transfer on March 18th. Remember how I thought it was meaningful timing around Valentine's season? I truly believed it was poetic, giving you a real home of your own. Only 4 days passed in between." She acted extremely fast. "The deed lists only her name as the owner, not yours at all, not even placed in trust. Just Victoria Ann Thompson as sole owner." He scrolled quickly through his phone screen. "Wait a second. Let me pull up the exact bank records. What was the wire transfer description labeled? I no longer had direct access to those details." David logged into his own account right there, located the transaction, and read it aloud clearly. "Gift for Bill house purchase. Bellevue property." He spoke each word deliberately. I was completely explicit about the purpose. This situation isn't ambiguous whatsoever. So she committed outright fraud. Wire fraud, in fact, which makes it a federal offense. Those heavy words simply hung in the air between us. Federal crime. My own daughter potentially facing serious federal charges. I took a slow sip of coffee that had already turned lukewarm. Something important kept nagging at the back of my mind. A faint memory hovering just out of clear reach. Last March, exactly 1 year earlier. What else had happened during that precise time then? The memory suddenly crashed over me. My hand froze completely in midair. My coffee mug remained suspended halfway to my mouth, eyes unfocusing as I was pulled back 12 full months. Victoria and Charles arriving unexpectedly at my apartment, both absolutely giddy with big news. We just bought a house. Victoria had practically sung those words out loud. Right here in Bellevue. "Can you even believe our luck? Charles received this massive bonus from work, and we found the absolute perfect place." I'd been truly happy for them back then, even quietly relieved deep down. They'd been struggling financially for so many years straight. Charles's consulting business had always been inconsistent and unpredictable. Suddenly, real money appeared from somewhere. Suddenly, they were moving into one of Seattle's wealthiest and most exclusive neighborhoods. I never once questioned their story at the time. Families don't always probe deeply into each other's exact financial details. Kids grow up eventually, start earning their own money, and buy their own homes one day. I'd felt nothing but genuine pride for them. "Dad." David's soft voice gently pulled me back to the present. "You okay? They also bought a house last March. Victoria and Charles. They moved into Bellevue right around the same exact time this other property was purchased. They specifically claimed Charles got a huge work bonus." David's jaw muscles visibly tightened. "There was never any bonus at all. No, there absolutely wasn't." I grabbed my car keys without another word. Let's go check it out ourselves. The drive took roughly 20 minutes across town. My old Honda Civic looked completely shabby and out of place among all the luxury Teslas and BMWs parked along the quiet Bellevue streets. Perfectly tree-lined boulevards, immaculately manicured lawns, enormous homes that cost far more than I had ever earned throughout my entire theatrical career. 12845 Northeast 85th Street sat at the end of a long private driveway behind a tall iron gate. The house was truly massive. Beautiful brick facade with elegant white columns, 3 full stories tall, probably over 5,000 square feet, easily worth well over $1 million in today's market. I parked on the street and walked up to the gate. It was surprisingly unlocked that day. The house had one of those advanced smart doorbell cameras with video recording. I gave it a small, mocking wave. If Victoria was remotely monitoring her stolen property from her phone app, she had just received a live video feed of dear old Dad showing up directly at the crime scene. I sincerely hoped she choked on her fancy organic breakfast smoothie while watching me. I cupped both hands around my eyes and peered carefully through the large front windows. The interior was completely empty. Absolutely empty inside. No furniture anywhere, no curtains hanging. Nothing at all. Just bare hardwood floors and vast, echoing rooms. "Can I help you with anything?" I jumped slightly in surprise. An elderly woman stood calmly on the sidewalk, walking her small Pomeranian that immediately began yapping loudly at me. The little dog clearly took an instant strong dislike to my presence, barking furiously as if I was personally responsible for the whole housing crisis. At least one resident in this upscale neighborhood was completely honest about their true feelings. "Oh, are you perhaps interested in viewing this property?" She leaned gently on her walker, but had bright and curious eyes. "It's been listed on and off the market for quite some time now. Such a strange and unusual situation overall." I straightened up quickly and tried to appear casual instead of like a father confronting his daughter's massive theft. "I'm actually an old friend of the family, the Thompsons." "Yes, that's correct. They bought it last March. Seemed like a lovely couple back then, but they never once moved in. Not even for a single day. The realtor comes by every month just to check on things. But otherwise the house simply sits completely vacant." "Do you know them personally?" "I only met them briefly during the closing process." The wife seemed quite nervous the whole time. The husband did nearly all the talking for both of them. They mentioned planning extensive renovations at some point, but no contractors or work crews ever actually showed up. She tilted her head slightly with interest. "Are you perhaps thinking of making an offer to buy it from them, just looking around for now?" "Thank you very much for all the helpful information." Back in the car, David was waiting anxiously with his phone in hand. It's totally empty inside. Completely empty throughout. The neighbor confirmed they've never lived there. Not once during the whole year they've owned it. Why would someone buy an expensive house and never even move in? Because I would have eventually discovered the truth. The final pieces suddenly clicked perfectly into place in my mind. She stole the house that was meant for me but was far too afraid to actually live in it herself. So she purchased a completely different one using money from some other source and told everyone that was the one they bought. This original one just sits vacant here, quietly accumulating property taxes that she somehow pays from who knows where. My modest rental apartment could easily fit entirely inside this house's large garage. Victoria certainly aimed high with her stolen upgrade. We drove back to my place in complete silence the entire way. Once we arrived at the apartment, David immediately pulled out his phone again. "I'm calling the police right this minute. This is straightforward and clear theft." "Wait just one moment. David, she stole $800,000 directly from us. That's not some small family disagreement. That's a major felony offense. I know precisely what it is." I carefully set down my coffee mug on the counter. But I need to fully understand why she would do something like this. Victoria wasn't always capable of such betrayal. Something major must have changed deep inside her. Who cares about the why at this point? She's simply a thief now. I care very much. She's still my daughter no matter what she did. And if we rush straight to the police, we'll never learn the real truth behind her actions. She'll immediately lawyer up and will only receive cold legal answers, never the true human reasons. David's fist slammed down hard on the counter. The loud bang actually made me flinch noticeably. "So what exactly do you want to do instead?" I paused for a long, thoughtful moment. Something cold yet deeply creative began emerging in my mind. something drawn straight from my decades of crafting elaborate illusions on stage sets. I want her to experience exactly what I felt last night at dinner. Confused, deeply betrayed, completely blindsided by someone she believed she could trust without question. My phone buzzed once more on the counter. I glanced down at the screen quickly. Yet another message from Victoria. Her texts had been arriving steadily all morning, becoming increasingly desperate with each new one. Dad, please just talk to me soon. I know you're extremely angry, but there's important context you need to hear. Can we please meet somewhere private? Just you and me alone. Dad, please don't do anything too drastic right now. I read every single message thoroughly, but chose to respond to none of them. Let her sit alone in that growing silence, constantly wondering what might happen next. Dad, what exactly are you thinking about right now? I walked slowly into my bedroom closet and pulled out a large, old, theatrical trunk from the back. Thick dust swirled gently in the afternoon sunlight streaming through the window. The trunk hadn't been opened in many years. Inside were decades' worth of accumulated tools from my long scenic design career. Hologram projectors left over from a 2010 production of A Christmas Carol. Motion sensors originally used in a production of Dracula. Professional sound equipment gathered from countless theater shows over the years. David stood quietly in the doorway, watching my every move. Dad, what are you planning to do with all this old equipment? I lifted out a small compact projector and turned it slowly in my hands, light catching on the polished lens. You know what I did professionally for 35 long years? I made entire audiences truly believe in ghosts and spirits. I created theatrical illusions so realistic and convincing that people completely forgot they were sitting safely in a theater. I looked up directly at my son with determination. That stolen house is sitting completely empty right now. Victoria is too terrified to live in it, too greedy to sell it off, and now far too guilty to even approach it. His expression slowly changed as full understanding finally dawned on him. I think it's finally time my daughter's stolen house became genuinely haunted. I texted Gloria Hayes early the next morning at 6 o'clock. Need your expert help with something. Remember those ghost effects we created for Macbeth years ago? Coffee at 9 sharp. She responded within 30 seconds. Sounds intriguing. See you at the cafe on Broadway. Gloria and I went back more than 30 years together. She had starred as lead actress in over a dozen productions where I designed all the sets. We had collaborated on several horror shows featuring elaborate special effects, holograms, projections, and soundscapes that made audiences completely forget they were watching a staged performance. She had retired from acting 5 years earlier and moved into real estate work. But her eyes still lit up brightly whenever someone mentioned theatrical illusions. I arrived at the coffee shop first and claimed a quiet corner table away from the morning crowd. Gloria swept in exactly at 9. Silver hair cut short, wearing a leather jacket that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She dropped into the chair across from me and studied my tired face carefully. Bill Thompson, I haven't heard from you in 3 years since you retired from directing. I need serious help with a special project. Something deeply theatrical. You're planning to direct again? I thought you were completely done with that world. Not directing exactly. More like creating something new. Remember that production of The Turn of the Screw, where we made the audience believe they saw real ghosts reflected in the mirrors? Her fingers drummed lightly on the table. The Pepper's ghost illusion we perfected took us 3 full months to get right. I need to make an entire house appear convincingly haunted. Professionally done. She leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. This isn't actually for a theater show, is it? It's extremely personal. And before you even ask, yes, it's mostly legal. A slow, knowing smile spread across her face. Tell me every single detail. So I did exactly that. The stolen house, Victoria's shocking betrayal, David's wire transfer, the completely empty mansion sitting untouched in Bellevue like waiting evidence. Gloria listened carefully, without interrupting once. That old creative spark clearly building behind her eyes as I spoke. When I finally finished, she sat back in her chair and laughed out loud. You want to psychologically gaslight your own daughter using professional-grade special effects. Bill, this is either the most brilliant plan or the most unhinged idea I've heard all year. I'm personally leaning toward both at once. When do we start working on it? As soon as we finalize a solid plan and gather all the necessary equipment and secure access. She pulled out her phone immediately and began typing detailed notes. Motion sensors, hologram projectors, wireless speakers. We'll need reliable power sources. Clever concealment methods. Precise trigger mechanisms. This is just like that Macbeth production we did. Except now the terrified victims are real people. We spent the next 2 full hours sketching out detailed ideas on coffee shop napkins. Gloria's enthusiasm was completely infectious, pulling me out of the dark, emotional place I'd been stuck in since that fateful dinner. This wasn't simply revenge anymore. It had become true creation. Genuine art with a clear and meaningful purpose. That same afternoon, I climbed the interior stairs to the 3rd floor of my apartment building. Oscar Turner lived in apartment 3B and had been my neighbor for 6 years. He worked as a real estate attorney, mostly handling property disputes and title issues. I knocked at an awkward mid-afternoon hour when most people would be at work, but Oscar answered quickly in sweats and reading glasses. Bill, everything all right with you? Need some professional legal advice. Can I come inside for a few minutes? His home office overlooked the street below, walls lined with thick law books that probably hadn't been opened since he passed the bar exam. He gestured toward a comfortable chair, grabbed a fresh legal pad, and settled behind his desk like we were in a formal consultation. Let me make sure I fully understand the situation. His reading glasses slid down his nose slightly as he carefully reviewed all the documents I'd brought with me. Your son wired your daughter $800,000 with completely explicit instructions that it was meant for purchasing a house for you. She instead bought a house and placed it solely in her own name. Correct so far. And you want to know if you can sue her for fraud. Can we actually win? Technically, yes. You absolutely can file. Practically speaking. However, it's quite complicated. David gave the money voluntarily as a gift. There is no formal written contract specifying exact terms. He simply trusted family completely. Courts typically view cases like this as breach of trust matters, more civil than criminal fraud. What exactly does that mean in practice? It means potentially years of lengthy litigation, tens of thousands in expensive legal fees, and the outcome could go either way. Family court judges absolutely hate handling these kinds of messy internal disputes. He carefully set down the documents on his desk. Add in the fact that she's your own daughter, that both sides would have to testify under oath, that all family dynamics would be scrutinized closely. It's ugly, costly, and highly uncertain. So she basically gets away with everything scot-free. I didn't say that exactly. But if you're looking for quick and clear justice, the legal system unfortunately isn't the fastest or most reliable answer here. I left Oscar's apartment with a much clearer understanding of my limited options. The law either couldn't help me effectively, or wouldn't move fast enough, or would take so long that it wouldn't matter in the end. I was essentially on my own with this. I returned downstairs to my apartment and immediately started researching everything I could online. Victoria's Instagram feed was nothing but a carefully curated highlight reel full of lies. Beach vacation photos tagged blessed from the same exact month she stole the $800,000. Charles had posted some inspirational quote about strong family values. I took several screenshots for my records. Not real evidence legally, but deeply satisfying personally. I scrolled through Facebook profiles, LinkedIn pages, mutual friends accounts, clicked through countless tagged photos, read old comments, and slowly built a detailed timeline of events. Then I called Diane Clark, an old friend who knew Victoria from their shared yoga classes. Diane, this is a bit awkward to ask, but I need some information about Victoria and Charles. Oh, Bill, how have you been holding up? I heard David was visiting town recently. Did Victoria ever mention anything unusual happening with them financially last year? Any major changes or windfalls? Her brief pause told me everything before she even spoke. Well, Charles had some serious health issue going on. Victoria was extremely stressed about it, but refused to talk details with anyone. They completely disappeared from classes for nearly 2 full months. Health issue exactly. She wouldn't share specifics, but they returned different somehow, much quieter overall. And suddenly, they had that beautiful new house in Bellevue. Thank you so much. Diane, please don't mention that I asked about this. Is everything okay with the family? I hung up without directly answering her question. 2 months completely gone. Serious medical problems. Sudden large money appearing. The puzzle pieces weren't fully connecting yet, but they were steadily accumulating in my mind. That same night, alone in my quiet apartment at 2 in the morning, I made my biggest mistake so far. I'd found a random YouTube tutorial video about phone monitoring apps, the kind parents sometimes use to track teenagers. Turns out those tutorials from channels run by guys calling themselves tech guru aren't exactly reliable sources for covert family operations. Who would have guessed I foolishly followed the instructions anyway? I crafted a deceptive email to Victoria disguised as a photo-sharing link from an old family event. Thought you'd enjoy seeing these pictures from last Thanksgiving gathering. Sent it from a brand new email address she wouldn't recognize immediately. My phone buzzed about an hour later with a notification. Not a reply from Victoria. A system alert instead. Your phone number has now been blocked by the recipient. She had quickly detected the malware attempt. Shown it to someone knowledgeable who confirmed it looked highly suspicious. And now I had completely tipped my hand, revealed that I was actively trying to surveil her communications. The crucial element of surprise was gone forever. I threw my phone onto the couch in frustration, paced back and forth across my apartment, ran both hands through my gray hair until it stood up wildly, and called myself an idiot out loud to the empty room several times. Gloria arrived at my door just 20 minutes after I texted her in total panic. She found me still pacing angrily and cursing my own impatience. I wanted desperately to know what they were saying to each other, what plans they were making. I explained quickly. Now she knows I'm watching her every move. Gloria didn't lecture me at all, just perched calmly on the arm of my couch and said softly, "So we simply adjust our approach. Theater is fundamentally all about skilled improvisation. You lost the chance for direct secret communication. Fine. We work around it. That means she absolutely can't anticipate your next real move now. She's likely paranoid already, constantly waiting for something to happen. We can use that growing fear to our advantage." I took a deep, calming breath and nodded slowly. Then we move forward to the next act immediately. And this time, I make no further contact until I'm ready for her to know I'm there. The very next morning, Gloria spread out hand-drawn blueprints across my kitchen table, detailed floor plans of 12845 Northeast 85th Street in Bellevue that she had sketched from memory after I showed her the exact address. I sold a house just 3 doors down from this one about 5 years ago, she explained casually. I'd completely forgotten she had transitioned into real estate after retiring from the stage. I personally walked through this exact property during an open house back then. I clearly remember the full layout. Her finger traced carefully along the basement stairs on the drawing. There's a small window here on the east side, mostly hidden behind overgrown rhododendron bushes. It doesn't lock properly at all. The previous seller mentioned it but never bothered to fix the issue before closing. If someone needed to get inside without using keys, she looked up at me meaningfully. We could be in and out within 3 hours total. Install everything necessary before they even think to check the vacant property. David's voice suddenly crackled through my phone speaker on the table. I'd put him on speaker during Gloria's detailed explanation. "You're seriously talking about breaking and entering now?" Gloria didn't even blink once. "I'm talking about professional set construction in a highly unconventional venue." My hand hovered uncertainly over the blueprint, directly above that vulnerable basement window, above what felt like the true point of no return. A painful memory suddenly surfaced without warning. 15 years ago, recovering slowly from major surgery, Victoria staying at my apartment to care for me daily. We had watched classic old movies together on the couch, laughed at private inside jokes from her childhood years. She had made my favorite homemade soup every single day for an entire week. What exactly had changed her so completely? When did the loving daughter who cared so deeply become the one capable of stealing from her own family? My finger finally touched the blueprint paper, right on that basement window spot. Let's do it without further delay. The local hardware store opened at 7 in the morning. Gloria and I were already waiting patiently in the parking lot by 6:55. My Honda was loaded with empty large bags for transporting equipment discreetly. Inside the store, we moved through the aisles with clear purpose. Motion sensors, 3 high-quality ones. Wireless speakers in compact models with excellent sound projection. Long extension cords. Multiple power strips. Professional mounting hardware. The young employee at checkout watched curiously as we loaded everything onto the counter belt. "This is quite a lot of equipment for any home project. Are you installing a full security system or something community theater production, actually?" I replied smoothly. "We're staging a modern version of A Christmas Carol. Lots of advanced ghost effects planned for February." Gloria jumped in seamlessly to help. "Pre-production phase right now. We mount the full show in November. Smart theaters always start planning early. You'll definitely need those extra extension cords for this many devices. What's your venue power supply situation like?" "The venue has multiple independent circuits available. We're seasoned professionals. Been doing theatrical effects like this for many years." He shrugged casually. Rang up the total purchase. "That'll be $847 exactly." Gloria leaned toward me quietly as I swiped my credit card. Almost ironic, spending nearly as much as a down payment on a stolen house. $847 to psychologically terrorize my own daughter. Parenting books and advice columns never once covered this particular scenario. Back at my apartment, we carefully loaded the real professional equipment. The genuine theatrical gear pulled from my old storage trunk. Hologram projectors I had used in that 2010 production of A Christmas Carol. The irony was certainly not lost on me at all. Motion sensors originally from the Dracula show. Audio equipment collected from countless productions over decades. 35 years of slowly accumulated professional tools. Finally getting one last major performance opportunity. Monday evening arrived cold and dark outside. We dressed entirely in black clothing, work gloves tucked into pockets, and drove quietly to Bellevue at 7 o'clock sharp. Parked 2 full blocks away for safety. Walked calmly to the property, carrying all equipment in dark canvas bags that could easily pass for gym gear. The overgrown rhododendrons behind the house had grown completely wild, thick branches blocking the basement window almost entirely. Gloria produced professional wire cutters from her jacket pocket and began working efficiently while I kept careful watch on the quiet street. The snapping branches sounded loud in the silent neighborhood. But no house lights came on anywhere. No dogs barked in response. The window remained exactly where Gloria remembered it. She pushed firmly on the frame once. It didn't budge at all. Pushed harder this time. angling the pressure upward. Something inside clicked softly, and the window swung smoothly inward. "After you first," she whispered quietly. "I spent 35 years building elaborate theatrical sets. Never once thought I'd use those exact skills for actual breaking and entering. My old theater union would be either proud or completely horrified. Probably both reactions at once." My knees cracked loudly as I squeezed carefully through the narrow window, dropping down into musty darkness below. Thick cobwebs caught in my hair immediately. My feet finally hit solid concrete, and I quickly fumbled for my phone flashlight to see. The basement stretched out before me, completely empty and dusty, exactly as abandoned as the rest of the large house. Gloria handed down the equipment pieces one by one, projectors carefully wrapped in thick towels for protection, sensor boxes, portable high-quality speakers, a cordless drill, mounting hardware, my old professional microphone from past recording work. We worked methodically and quietly, Gloria following me up the basement stairs carrying bags slung over her shoulders. The entire house felt overwhelmingly massive in the complete darkness. Our footsteps echoed loudly on the hardwood floors throughout. I tried hard not to think constantly about property values, about what this beautiful place would have meant to me if everything had gone as originally planned, and just focused entirely on the task at hand. We started installation in the main entrance hallway. I drilled small, precise holes for the sensor mounts, hands remarkably steady despite the unusual circumstances. Pure muscle memory from decades of professional set construction. Gloria positioned each motion detector carefully, tested all the angles thoroughly, adjusted positions until she was fully satisfied. "This one perfectly catches movement from the front door area," she explained quietly, marking exact positions with small pieces of tape. "This sensor monitors the main staircase completely. This third one covers the kitchen entrance thoroughly. Anyone walking through any of those areas will definitely trigger the system." The professional audio equipment went in next. Wireless speakers cleverly hidden behind elegant crown molding, tucked carefully into closet corners, mounted securely in the basement ceiling area. I had pre-recorded the audio track earlier that day, sitting alone in my apartment bathroom for the best natural acoustics, speaking my own words directly into the microphone. Voice kept steady and deeply accusing. "Why did you betray me like this? Victoria, I know exactly what you did, and this house was supposed to become my home." Hearing my own disembodied voice playing back through the empty house sent real chills down my spine. Gloria accidentally triggered one motion sensor during setup, and my recorded voice suddenly scared even me badly. If I give myself a heart attack from my own haunting equipment, the dark irony would kill me faster than any actual cardiac event. The advanced hologram projector was installed last, by far the most complex part of the setup. Gloria carefully adjusted all the projection angles while I walked slowly through the hallway multiple times, testing exact throw distances. When she was finally satisfied with everything, she triggered it manually for a test. A shadowy, distorted figure suddenly appeared on the hallway wall, human-shaped but somehow wrong and unnatural. Recognizably, my own silhouette stretched and warped in an accusing manner. She grinned widely in the dark. Perfect effect achieved. We were completely out of the house by 10 o'clock exactly. 3 hours on the dot as originally planned. Gloria climbed back through the basement window first, and I handed up all the equipment bags to her, then hauled myself out with protesting muscles the entire way. We carefully replaced the cut rhododendron branches as best we could to hide our entry. Walked calmly back to the car without speaking a word. Wednesday morning brought a phone call from David. The private investigator report finally came back complete. "I'm forwarding the full file to you right now." I pulled up his email attachment on my laptop screen while keeping him on the line. The investigator's work was extremely thorough and detailed. 20 full pages of financial records, credit reports, property documents, and reconstructed timelines. $450,000 in total debt. David said seriously. Credit cards completely maxed. Massive medical bills, various personal loans. Dad, they're absolutely drowning financially right now. Medical bills for what exactly the investigator couldn't obtain specific details due to privacy laws. HIPAA protection blocked everything. But there's a clear paper trail leading to Overlake Medical Center in Bellevue. Large charges starting around March 2024. Continuing steadily through September, right around or just before they purchased the houses. Maybe that's the reason they needed money so desperately. I scrolled slowly through page after page of collection notices, court filings for unpaid debts, credit card statements showing balances completely maxed out. The numbers painted a clear picture of pure financial desperation, but not the complete story. The exact medical specifics remained locked firmly behind strict privacy laws. Then why didn't they simply ask for help, I said aloud. Why choose to steal instead? Pride, perhaps deep shame, I honestly don't know. Dad. But they're clearly desperate beyond words. A memory from 20 years ago suddenly surfaced without warning in my mind. Working 3 separate jobs just to cover Victoria's full college tuition costs. Scenic designer by day, night janitor at a local hospital, weekend handyman work, often falling asleep exhausted at the kitchen table over stacks of unpaid bills. Victoria coming home for spring break one year, finding me like that, making fresh coffee quietly, and sitting across from me with tears streaming down her face. Dad, I can take a semester off school, get a part-time job, help pay some bills, and me immediately cutting her off firmly. No, you're going to finish your degree. You're going to have all the opportunities I never had growing up. She had hugged me tightly that day. I'll never forget everything you're sacrificing for me. Never. But she had somehow forgotten, or something major had changed her completely. Or perhaps I never truly knew her as well as I always thought. Dad. David's voice gently pulled me back to the present again. You still there? They bought a house last March as well. Victoria and Charles moved into Bellevue around the exact same time this stolen house was purchased. They specifically said Charles received a big bonus from work. David's jaw muscles worked visibly. There never was any bonus at all. No, there absolutely wasn't. I grabbed my keys once more. Let's go take another look. This one just sits here as hidden evidence. That weekend, Charles and Victoria decided to move into the stolen house to establish residency and avoid suspicion. They arrived at dusk, unlocked the door with keys that had been hidden for a year, set up an inflatable mattress in the master bedroom, ate takeout on the kitchen counter. No furniture, just echoing emptiness and their heavy guilt. Victoria lay awake at 2 a.m, staring at the dark ceiling in the stolen house. At exactly 2:14, a soft click sounded. Then my recorded voice filled the entire house, layered with reverb. Victoria, why did you take my home? She bolted upright, heart pounding wildly. Charles, wake up. He groaned and rolled over. What is it now? Did you hear that voice? Dad's voice. I don't hear anything. You're imagining things. The voice returned, echoing through walls. I know what you did. This was supposed to be my home. There. You heard that Charles listened carefully but heard nothing. He checked the hallway with his phone flashlight. Empty. Windows and doors locked from inside. It's an old house. It creaks and makes noises. That was his actual voice. And look, a shadow on the wall. A distorted hologram of my silhouette appeared, accusing and warped. Charles checked everything again. Nothing found. Go back to sleep. You're stressing yourself out. She couldn't sleep at all that night. Saturday morning. Victoria walked into the living room and froze completely. A silver picture frame sat prominently on the mantel, perfectly positioned. She approached slowly. It was a photo of her at 6 years old with me, both smiling widely at the camera. They hadn't brought any personal photos with them. Charles, come here right now. He arrived with coffee. What now? She held up the frame with shaking hands. This photo of me and Dad. We didn't bring any pictures. Maybe left by previous owners. We bought it empty. No previous owners here. She flipped the frame over. Words written on the back in handwriting eerily similar to mine. Remember when I loved you unconditionally? Charles examined it closely. This is definitely him. He's doing all this. He's been inside this house. That's impossible. Everything was locked. Victoria called David's number repeatedly. Voicemail every time. 6 calls in 10 minutes. Growing desperation. She grabbed her keys. I'm going to Dad's apartment. I need to apologize and explain. 25 minutes later, she stood outside my building, climbed the stairs, knocked desperately. Dad, it's Victoria. I know you're angry. Please open up. No answer. She knocked harder. Dad, we need to talk. I can explain everything. The door remained silent and locked. She pressed her ear against it. Nothing. Peered through the mail slot. Lights off. Mail piled up inside. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what else to do. Her voice broke completely. She scribbled a quick note from paper in her purse and taped it to the door. Walked away whispering. Where did you go? You've lived here 15 years. 20 minutes away. I sat in Gloria's living room watching the feed from the cheap doorbell camera I had installed earlier. $40 well spent at a big box store. I watched my daughter cry on the screen. Taped the note. Drive away defeated. Poured myself a bourbon but barely tasted it. My phone lit up with her desperate messages. Gloria appeared beside me quietly. She looks absolutely terrible. When's the last time she slept properly? Not my concern anymore. She's a thief who stole from family. And you're a father torturing his child with professional ghost illusions. Where exactly is the line? Bill, I took a slow drink. I'll know it when I cross it. Will you really? Because from here it looks like you're starting to enjoy this too much. I watched Victoria's car disappear from the camera view. I'm not enjoying any of it. But I'm not stopping either. Sunday morning at 3:47. Another motion sensor triggered on my laptop screen. Victoria wandering the house alone in the dark. Phone flashlight in hand. I switched to monitoring her texts through a legally gray cellular interceptor David's investigator had set up. Her message appeared clearly. I need to talk to someone about Dad. Something's terribly wrong. He's been completely gone for a week and no one has seen him. Should I file a missing person report sent to Diane? My blood suddenly ran cold. A missing person report would bring police investigation. They would find me at Gloria's. Ask why I vanished. The entire revenge plan could completely unravel. Worse, I would look like the guilty party hiding. I started to call Victoria to stop her, then realized I had blocked her number after the failed spyware attempt. She had blocked mine too. No direct communication possible even if I wanted. Gloria appeared in the doorway wearing her bathrobe. What happened now? I turned the laptop toward her. She's about to call the police about me missing, and I can't reach her to stop it. We made strong coffee at 4 a.m. while I paced Gloria's kitchen. If she files the report, police will come looking. Find me here. Start asking difficult questions. Then go home briefly. Show your face publicly. Prove you're alive and well. Then disappear again. She's cracking under the pressure. Another week and she'll confess everything voluntarily. Another week and you'll be explaining to detectives why you vanished from your own life. And your daughter will be having a full nervous breakdown in a house full of hidden cameras and equipment. I'll make a quick public appearance, then return here. Gloria set down her mug firmly. Bill, this is becoming dangerous. Not just legally, but psychologically for her. And for you too. She stole $800,000. She deserves serious consequences. Yes, But does she deserve full psychological torture? This is justice in action. You keep repeating that. I'm not sure you fully believe it anymore. Sunday, 5:30 in the pre-dawn darkness. I slipped quietly into my apartment building through the back entrance. Mrs. Clark from 2B emerged from the laundry room with a basket and spotted me in the hallway. "Oh, Bill, we were all so worried about you. Where have you been visiting extended family out of town?" She nodded but eyed my grown-out beard suspiciously. I unlocked my apartment door, turned on lights briefly, set visible timers, stood in the window for exactly 60 seconds so neighbors could see me, took out trash publicly, checked accumulated mail with others watching, proof of life firmly established, then drove straight back to Gloria's place, feeling strangely like a fugitive in my own city. Over the next 3 days, I intensified the haunting effects remotely, clicking through the laptop interface, selecting new audio files. "Victoria, I taught you better than this. Remember when I taught you to ride a bike on Capitol Hill? You trusted me completely then." Camera feeds showed Victoria pacing the house for days in the same unwashed pajamas, hair matted, dark circles deep under her eyes like bruises. Charles slammed kitchen cabinets repeatedly, phone pressed to his ear, arguing loudly with credit card companies over minimum payments. Monday afternoon, Gloria sneaked into the house during their grocery run using a copied key from a locksmith, placed an old theatrical script on Victoria's pillow from a 2009 production about guilt and redemption that I had designed. Worn pages with my handwritten margin notes throughout. Tuesday morning, Victoria discovered it. Camera feed showed her slowly reading highlighted passages, recognition dawning painfully, sinking to the floor, clutching the script tightly to her chest. She read certain lines aloud to the empty house. "The guilt follows you always. Not because someone places it there, but because you carried it inside yourself. Every locked door, every darkened hallway, every creak in the night. It's not the house that is haunted. It's you." Then she whispered softly, "Dad, I know you're behind all this. I know these are your exact words. I remember this play vividly. I was 17. You let me read lines with you at the kitchen table back then." She traced one of my old margin notes gently. "Victoria helped develop this scene. Brilliant instincts shown. I'm so sorry. I'm truly so sorry. But I can't undo what I did. The money is completely gone. The treatments cost absolutely everything we had. And Charles is too proud to admit we failed completely. Treatments." I leaned closer to the laptop screen. Volume turned up high. "What treatments exactly?" That same afternoon, Victoria met Diane at a local coffee shop for support. I couldn't monitor that conversation directly, but Diane's concerned texts afterward showed deep worry. Tuesday evening, Victoria called a professional electrician in desperation. The electrician spent 2 full hours checking every outlet, breaker and wire in the house. Found absolutely nothing wrong technically. Charged them $350 anyway. On his way out, I watched him make the sign of the cross quickly. He wasn't even Catholic, just covering every possible base. Tuesday afternoon, another daylight trigger occurred. Victoria alone in the house. My voice played again. "I taught you better than stealing from family." She sat down slowly on the hallway floor instead of running away, and actually spoke back to the empty house. Voice calm, despite visible tears streaming down. "I know, Dad. You absolutely did teach me better. You taught me honesty, integrity, and the value of hard work. You worked 3 jobs so I could attend college without debt. I remember every sacrifice clearly." She paused briefly to compose herself. "But you never once taught me what to do when someone you love deeply is dying, and insurance refuses to cover the only treatment that might save them. And you have only 72 hours to come up with $750,000 or watch them die slowly." She sat there alone for 20 full minutes, explaining everything in detail to the silent house. I sat frozen at Gloria's, listening to every word. Dying, insurance denial, $750,000 needed. Wednesday morning, Charles climbed up into the attic investigating strange sounds. Found one of the hidden motion sensors mounted in the rafters. Held the small device in his palm, eyes widening with sudden understanding. He stormed downstairs angrily. "Victoria, look at this right now. What's wrong now?" "This device, it's a professional wireless motion sensor, commercial grade. There are probably many others hidden. This whole haunting is completely fake speakers, projectors, holograms. Your father worked in theater for 40 years. He knows exactly how to create illusions like this. He's been inside this house installing everything. Him or someone he hired. This is harassment. It's completely illegal. Breaking and entering. Unlawful surveillance. We can press charges against him." "Press charges against my own father. He's terrorizing us both." "Yes, we should press charges. I'm calling him right this minute." Charles scrolled through Victoria's phone. Found my blocked contact. Unblocked it. And dialed. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Hello, I know exactly what you're doing. Charles. It's been a while. Cut the innocent act. The motion sensors, the speakers. Very professional and creative, but also very illegal. I don't know what you're talking about. Breaking and entering. Unlawful surveillance. Harassment. Need me to continue listing charges. You're living in a house bought with money stolen from family. Should we compare serious crimes? Meet me tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, at Gasworks Park. We settle this face to face. Or what exactly, or I call Seattle police and report that you've been breaking into our property, installing surveillance equipment, and stalking my wife." Long, tense pause on the line. "What do you want to end all this, one way or another?" I texted David immediately afterward. "Charles just called me. Wants to meet in person. Don't go, Dad. He threatened police over the equipment. He's probably bluffing. He can't involve cops without admitting the house was purchased with stolen funds. But he found one of the sensors. The whole plan is partially compromised now. So what's next? I meet him and hear what he has to say. Dad, this could easily be some kind of trap. It could also be complete surrender on their part. Thursday morning, 9:45. Gasworks Park overlooking Lake Union. I sat on a bench watching joggers and dog walkers passing by. Normal people living normal lives. Gloria parked 300 feet away with binoculars for backup. She had insisted on coming. Phone buzzed from David. Don't admit anything. He has no real proof without incriminating himself. At 9:58, Charles appeared walking along the path. He looked far worse than on camera feeds. Significant weight lost. Skin gray and unhealthy. Moving with visible physical effort and pain. For the first time, I saw him not as the villain, but as someone who might genuinely be very ill. We made brief eye contact. Charles walked over slowly and sat on the opposite end of the bench, keeping careful distance between us. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Just two older men on a park bench, appearing as strangers to anyone watching. Finally, Charles broke the heavy silence. I'm dying. Bill. My prepared angry response completely evaporated. What did you just say? Charles pulled a thick medical file from inside his jacket and handed it over to me. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 3 when first diagnosed. March last year. Experimental treatment at Overlake cost $780,000. Insurance only covered $40,000. We had 72 hours to come up with the rest, or I would be dead by August. He pointed at specific pages in the file. It's all documented here. Diagnosis, full treatment plan, billing statements. I'm in remission now. Victoria saved my life using that stolen house money. I opened the file slowly. Official hospital letterhead. The diagnosis written in cold clinical language. Astronomical medical costs listed. Charles continued speaking quietly. So before you finish completely destroying her, you should know the full truth. She didn't steal for greed or luxury. She did it because I was dying and she couldn't bear to watch me go. Victoria's hand shook uncontrollably as she dialed 911 that Tuesday morning at 9:47. She had barely slept 3 hours in the past 72. Please, someone needs to help us immediately. Someone is stalking and harassing us inside our own house. Is the intruder present right now? Mom, I don't know for sure. Maybe. It happens randomly at all hours. Are you currently in immediate danger? Victoria paused and looked around the empty living room. I honestly don't know how to answer that question. Detective Curtis Palmer arrived 40 minutes later. Methodical and thorough. Flashlights sweeping every room, checking all windows and testing locks carefully. I monitored remotely from Gloria's house and frantically clicked through my laptop interface, shutting down all systems completely. Killing power. Disabling every remote trigger. Detective Palmer searched every corner like he was hunting something supernatural. I had hidden nearly $850 worth of professional theater equipment throughout the house. He found absolutely nothing. Apparently, Seattle PD doesn't regularly train for cases involving retired scenic designers conducting psychological warfare. Palmer filled his notepad with detailed observations. No signs of forced entry anywhere. No visible surveillance equipment detected. Residents appeared highly stressed and anxious. Mrs. Thompson, I've checked every single room thoroughly. All closets, windows, locks are completely secure. No signs of tampering or break-in. But we've both clearly heard the voices. And someone left a photograph and my father's old script. Where are those specific items now we threw them away? Charles was furious. Palmer's expression softened with professional concern. I understand. Ma'am, has there been recent family conflict or financial pressure? Her voice came out small and broken. Yes. Quite a lot. Sometimes under extreme stress, our minds can create what we most fear. I'd strongly recommend speaking with a professional counselor. He handed her a business card gently. There's no clear crime here that I can document, but there might be something a therapist could help with significantly. After the detective left, Victoria sat alone on the front porch steps, head buried in her hands, makeup completely streaked. Neighbors peeked carefully through curtains at the scene. She had been effectively gaslit by reality itself. All the equipment had worked perfectly, but now there was zero physical evidence remaining. Charles found her there an hour later. You actually called the police on us. I needed real help. I can't continue living like this. You made us look completely insane. The detective thinks you're suffering a breakdown. Maybe I am breaking down. Maybe your pride and my overwhelming guilt have finally driven me mad. His finger pointed accusingly, voice rising in anger. My pride, you're the one who stole from your own family. I was only trying to save your life and ended up destroying mine completely. You told me to accept it. You said we had no other choice. I never told you to steal anything. I said we desperately needed help. And you made the worst possible decision imaginable. Victoria flinched and backed away. I was saving your life while destroying my soul in the process. I can't sleep. Can't work. Can't think clearly because you're seeing ghosts everywhere. Get out of my sight. What? Get away from me right now. I can't even look at you. The next day, 3 different real estate agents toured the house. Each one lowered their market estimate significantly. By the 3rd agent, Charles looked ready to sell the realtor himself instead. The final agent spread comparable listings across the kitchen table. I've pulled recent sales comps in Bellevue. The market has softened considerably since last year. We paid $800,000 exactly. What can we realistically get now? I'd list it at $779,000. Expect offers around $720,000. Victoria's tears fell directly onto the paperwork, smudging the ink. That's $130,000 less than we paid, plus my commission fees, closing costs, transfer taxes. You're looking at net proceeds around $680,000 after everything. Charles's calculator clicked rapidly. We borrowed $450,000 against our other property using this house as collateral. If we sell for $680,000, we're still $220,000 in debt after paying off the loan. I'm sorry. It's a very difficult market right now. Victoria whispered to no one in particular. We stole a house and somehow managed to lose money on it. They had stolen an $800,000 house and ended up losing $130,000. I didn't even think that was mathematically possible without special talent. Court papers arrived officially on Thursday. Hearing scheduled for early May, Oscar called with the update. Hearing set for May 3rd. Judge will review the wire transfer documentation, all email correspondence, everything in detail. What are our realistic chances 90% you win this case? David's emails explicitly state the money was intended for your house purchase. She diverted the funds to her own name alone. Clear breach of trust and intent. And if we win house transfers directly to David's name or they are ordered to pay full restitution, they can't possibly pay. So the house sells and proceeds go to David. They're left with absolutely nothing plus their existing crushing debt. Total financial destruction. Legal victory achieved. Whether that's true justice is between you and your own conscience now. That evening, I sat quietly in Gloria's living room. Laptop screen dark. Poured bourbon but didn't drink it. You won, Bill, Gloria said softly. The house will return to David. They're drowning financially and emotionally. Legally. You hold all the advantage. I stared at the blank screen. Then why does it feel exactly like losing everything? Because revenge never fills the hole they created in the first place. I wanted her to truly understand, to feel what I felt. She does now, and far more than you intended. You wanted real justice. But this, she gestured toward all the monitoring equipment. This became something darker. She stole $800,000 to save her husband's life. You would have done the exact same thing for her mother if she were still alive. That's completely different. Is it really, or are we all just better at justifying our own moments of desperation? Friday evening. Alone in the empty house. Victoria found the motion sensor Charles had discovered earlier, held it gently in her palm. Her father had physically entered this house, carefully installed this device, planned her psychological torture with meticulous care. The same loving hands that taught her to ride a bike, that built her childhood dollhouse from scratch, that held her tightly when her mother died young. Those same hands had set this elaborate trap. She sat down slowly on the cold floor and whispered toward the hidden cameras she now knew existed. I'm sorry, Daddy. I know you're listening somewhere. I'm so truly sorry. You're right about everything. I deserve all of this. I deserve every moment of it. Not crying anymore. Beyond tears at that point. Just confessing openly to walls, to cameras, to the father she finally understood would never fully forgive her. A memory from 17 years ago surfaced suddenly. 25-year-old Victoria bringing Charles home to meet me proudly. Dad, he's wonderful. You'll love him. I had hugged them both warmly, welcoming him into our family. Wednesday evening. My phone rang with an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. Hello, heavy breathing on the line. Then, Mr. Thompson. This is Craig Richardson, Charles's brother. We've never actually met. I sat up straight immediately. I'm calling because Charles asked me to reach out. He's currently in the hospital at Providence in Seattle. My blood ran completely cold. What happened exactly? He collapsed suddenly this afternoon. They're running extensive tests, but the doctors are asking detailed questions about his cancer history and recent stress levels. They're concerned about possible relapse. Craig's voice cracked with emotion. Look, I don't know all the details of what's happening in your family right now. Charles won't explain anything. But Victoria called me completely crying, saying everything is falling apart and she needs help. I'm just asking as his brother, whatever this family conflict is about, can it possibly wait until we know if my brother is going to survive? This hospital sounds echoed in the background. Intercom pages, beeping monitors. Victoria is there with him now in room 437. She's completely alone tonight. I'm flying in first thing tomorrow morning, but tonight she's just sitting there by herself. And I think she needs some family support. Any family at all. He hung up quietly. Gloria emerged from the kitchen. Who was that on the phone? Charles is back in the hospital. Possible cancer relapse. Victoria is there alone. Her hand covered her mouth in shock. Oh God. I grabbed my coat immediately. I need to go to the hospital right now. I don't know what I'll do, but I need to drive there. But my hands were already shaking holding the car keys. A detailed email arrived early Thursday morning. Subject line: Final Comprehensive Report on Richardson Medical and Financial History. 73 full pages. I had paid $5,800 for it, roughly $80 per page. For that price, it should have been leather-bound and included a complimentary massage. But the very first page alone was worth every penny. Patient Richardson, Charles James. Diagnosis: pancreatic adenocarcinoma, stage 3. Date: March 14th, 2024. Prognosis: 15% 5-year survival rate. Recommended treatment: experimental immunotherapy protocol at Overlake Medical Center. Estimated total cost: $780,000. Insurance coverage approved $40,000 only. My hands trembled as I scrolled through endless billing statements, multiple insurance denials, a precise timeline that made my stomach drop completely. March 15th to 17th, Victoria liquidated every asset possible, maxed out credit cards for $200,000, took out personal loans totaling $150,000, borrowed from close friends another $50,000. Total raised independently, $400,000. Still short $380,000. March the 18th, Abba's email arrived offering to buy me a house in Bellevue, wiring $800,000. March 19th, Victoria responded claiming she found the perfect property. Provided wiring instructions. March 21st, treatment deposit paid in full. Charles began experimental immunotherapy immediately. I drove to Gloria's house at 7 in the morning without calling ahead, still wearing pajamas under my coat. She found me sitting silently at her kitchen table with the full report printed out. Pages spread everywhere like courtroom evidence. Pancreatic cancer, stage 3, 15% survival chance. Diagnosis came March 14th last year. David's house email arrived March 18th. Only 4 days between learning her husband was dying and seeing a possible way to save him. Gloria pulled up a chair beside me. What would you have done in her position? Bill, if it was your wife dying and you suddenly saw $800,000 you could access somehow, long, heavy pause. I'd like to think I would have asked openly, explained everything, been completely honest. Would you really have? Or would you have been too proud? Too ashamed, too terrified of rejection? I'll never truly know for sure. But she absolutely should have asked me directly. Yes, without question she should have. But pure desperation can turn honest people into thieves temporarily. I sat there silently for another hour, processing everything. Then I logged into the haunting system control panel remotely. Click Disable all systems permanently. Confirmation prompt appeared. Are you sure you want to shut everything down? My cursor hovered over yes for 30 long seconds. Finally clicked confirm. I permanently disabled every piece of my theatrical haunting rig. Nearly $1,000 worth of equipment rendered completely useless in one click. Gloria later called it the most expensive moral epiphany she had ever witnessed. Friday afternoon. I met with Oscar again at his office. You want to offer what exactly? Let me confirm I understand correctly. They voluntarily return the house deed. You drop all financial claims and lawsuits completely. They walk away with zero additional penalties. Yes, that's the offer. You have a winning case here, Bill. They owe David full $800,000 in restitution. You could financially destroy them. I know that. Then why on earth show any mercy now? Because I finally learned why she did it. And while it absolutely doesn't excuse the theft, it fully explains the level of desperation involved. Courts don't care about emotional explanations or context. I'm not a court. I'm a father. And I'm completely tired of being the instrument of my daughter's destruction. Oscar looked at me like I had suggested settling the case with rock, paper, scissors. You want to give away your strong winning case? I confirmed yes. He muttered something about lost billable hours under his breath. Lawyers truly hate clean consciences. I called David that same evening to explain. You're letting them off after everything they did. I'm offering a fair settlement. Not instant forgiveness. Dad, they stole my money and your house. And you want to just let it all go. I want the house returned properly. I want this nightmare to finally end. I don't want to spend the next 2 years in court watching your sister completely disintegrate. She made her own terrible choices. She made an awful choice in an impossible situation. Her husband was dying from stage 3 pancreatic cancer. 15% survival odds. Long pause on the line. I didn't know any of that medical history. Neither did I until very recently. Neither did you. She never told anyone because Charles was too proud to admit weakness or ask for help. So she chose to steal instead. Yes, and that was completely wrong. But I now understand the desperation. And I'm choosing to offer a humane way out that doesn't destroy what's left of our family. Long silence from David. If this is truly what you want, Dad, I'll support your decision, but I'm not ready to speak to her yet. Not anytime soon. I know exactly how you feel. Neither am I. But maybe someday in the future, Saturday evening at 10 o'clock. I drove quietly to the Bellevue house, neighborhood dark and silent. I placed a large envelope containing my handwritten settlement letter against the front door, weighted down with a small rock. Sat in my car across the street for a full hour, watching and waiting. Victoria's car finally pulled up, returning exhausted from another hospital visit. She noticed the envelope immediately, bent down to pick it up, recognized my handwriting on the outside instantly. Victoria stood on the porch, reading slowly by her phone flashlight. I had written Victoria. I now know about Charles's diagnosis. I know about the stage 3 pancreatic cancer, the experimental treatment costs, the impossible 72-hour deadline you faced. I know you had to come up with $740,000 or watch him die. I know you tried every legitimate option first before taking David's money. I know you saved his life. And I know it cost you absolutely everything else, your integrity, your family relationships, your peace of mind. I do not forgive what you did. Theft remains theft, even when motivated by love and desperation. But I do understand why you made that choice. And understanding completely changes how I choose to move forward. We have 2 clear paths now. First path, court hearing on May 3rd. You lose. House legally goes to David. You're ordered to pay full restitution you cannot afford. Bankruptcy follows. Your marriage likely doesn't survive the stress. Second path, voluntary settlement. You deed the house back to David immediately. No restitution demanded. No additional financial penalties. You keep your existing debt but face no further legal consequences. Clean break moving forward. I'm offering this settlement once only. Not because you deserve mercy, because you don't, but because I'm exhausted from being the cause of your ongoing destruction. Respond within 72 hours. Dad. Her knees suddenly buckled beneath her. She sat down hard on the cold porch steps. Her shoulders shook violently. Not from fear this time, but from overwhelming shame and deep grief. She read the letter multiple times. The words I understand stood out most. 3 words she didn't realize she desperately needed to hear. She whispered quietly to the empty street, "I don't deserve any of this mercy." Then louder through tears, "I truly don't deserve this." But there was no one there to hear her. Just a broken woman sitting on the steps of a house she stole, holding a letter from the father she betrayed, crying from profound shame because he finally understood her better than she wanted to be understood. Sunday morning, my voicemail notification appeared. Victoria's number, unblocked now, her voice thick with fresh tears. "Dad, I received your letter. I don't even know what to say except I'm so deeply sorry. I'm sorry for everything. You're right about every single word. I made a terrible, selfish choice. I should have asked you directly. Should have asked David openly. Should have been completely honest from the start. I was just so terrified and so desperate in that moment. And I told myself I could somehow fix it all later. Pay everything back quietly. Make it right eventually. But I never could. And I destroyed our family in the process. I accept the settlement fully. I'll deed the house to David immediately. I'll sign whatever documents you need. But I need you to know I never stopped loving you. Even while betraying you. I loved you. I just loved Charles too. And I couldn't watch him die. I simply couldn't. That's not an excuse at all. Just the painful truth. Thank you for understanding. Even though you can't forgive me yet. That's far more than I deserve. Monday morning at 9:30. My phone rang again. Victoria's number. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Thumb hovering over answer. 4 rings. 5 rings. I let it go to voicemail. Then read her follow-up text. "Dad, I signed all the settlement papers. Oscar has them now. The house officially belongs to David. But I need to tell you something important about Charles in person. Something that changes everything once again. Please." I read the message 3 times slowly. What could possibly be left to reveal? Gloria read it over my shoulder quietly. What now? I don't know yet. Finally typed back, Wednesday, 2 o'clock. Gasworks Park. Same bench as before. You come alone. Her response came instantly. Thank you so much. I will be there alone. And Dad, I know you don't forgive me yet, but thank you for understanding. That means more to me than you can imagine. Gloria gently touched my shoulder. Whatever she tells you on Wednesday, remember you already chose to show mercy. Don't let any new information make you regret that difficult decision. I nodded slowly, but didn't reply. Because part of me wondered if there truly was something left that could change everything all over again. Wednesday finally arrived after feeling both too slow and too fast. Overcast spring day in Seattle, joggers passing by regularly, distant families at the park playground. Victoria arrived early as expected. I watched from my car as she sat nervously on the bench, checking her phone every 30 seconds, wiping sweaty palms on her jeans repeatedly. Gloria waited beside me in the passenger seat. You ready for this meeting? No? Not at all. Good. That means you're being honest with yourself at least. I walked across the park grass at exactly 2 o'clock, hands deep in jacket pockets, shoulders squared against the wind, steps heavier than they used to be. Victoria saw me approaching, stood up briefly, then sat back down uncertainly, unsure of proper greeting protocol after everything. I sat on the bench, leaving 3 feet of space between us, both of us staring out at the lake without initial eye contact. Thank you for coming today, she said softly. I didn't respond immediately. I need you to understand exactly what happened. Not to excuse my actions, just to fully understand the context. I'm listening carefully. March 14th last year, Charles received the diagnosis. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 3. Only 15% survival chance. Doctors said experimental immunotherapy was his only real hope. Cost $780,000 total. Insurance approved just $40,000. I continued staring at the calm lake water. Go on. I'm listening. We had exactly 72 hours to pay the deposit or lose the treatment slot forever. I liquidated everything we owned. Maxed credit cards, personal loans, borrowed from friends, managed to raise $510,000 total. Her voice cracked with emotion. Still needed another $270,000 desperately. I was sitting at our kitchen table crying uncontrollably when David's email arrived about buying you a house in Bellevue with $800,000. It felt like divine intervention, like the universe suddenly providing a way to save him. So you took the money without asking? Yes. And I lied to myself that I'd pay it all back later somehow. Sell the house eventually. Return every dollar. No one would ever know. But the medical bills kept coming and the debt grew and I couldn't fix it. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. I destroyed everything trying to save one life. My jaw tightened as I fought rising emotions, maintaining control. You could have simply asked me directly, Dad, you live on Social Security alone, $1,800 a month. I couldn't bring myself to ask. You could have asked me anyway. I would have given you every single penny I had, taken out a reverse mortgage on my apartment, called every friend and contact I knew. You could have told David the full truth openly. He would have helped without hesitation. Charles absolutely wouldn't allow it. He said asking for help meant admitting total weakness. He'd rather die than appear pitiful. So instead, you stole from us. I finally turned to look directly at her for the first time. And you know what the worst part is for me? I spent weeks making you pay painfully for that choice with the haunting. Her hand flew to her mouth in shock. What do you mean exactly, the haunting effects? The voices calling your name, the shadowy figures in hallways, photographs mysteriously appearing, the old script on your pillow. That was all me. Victoria. Every single part. Professional theater equipment, motion sensors, hidden audio systems, hologram projectors. I broke into that house and installed a complete ghost illusion. She stared at me in complete disbelief, then unexpectedly laughed through fresh tears, a bitter and exhausted sound. Of course it was you all along. I should have realized sooner. You spent 40 years creating perfect illusions on stage. I wanted you to feel exactly what I felt. Betrayed deeply, haunted constantly, watched by someone you trusted. Well, congratulations, Dad. It worked far too well. Footsteps approached on the gravel path. Charles walking slowly from the parking lot, still visibly recovering physically from treatment. He sat carefully on the opposite end of the bench, forming a tense triangle between the three of us. Head bowed low, hands clasped tightly, completely defeated in appearance. Mr. Thompson, I need to say something important. I barely glanced over at him. I'm listening. This is entirely my fault. I pressured Victoria into it. I was terrified of dying and forced her to do terrible things to save me. If you need to hate someone, hate me instead. I don't hate anyone anymore. I'm far too tired for sustained hate. Can you ever forgive us both? I can offer you a fair way forward. That's not the same thing as forgiveness. I pulled out the printed settlement document I had brought and placed it carefully on the bench between us. Victoria reached for it with trembling hands. This is the agreement. You deed the house voluntarily to David. No restitution payments demanded. Court case dismissed completely. You keep your existing debt, but face no additional legal consequences. Victoria's tears dropped directly onto the paper. That's far more mercy than we deserve. It's mercy offered, not full absolution. There's an important difference. Charles leaned forward slightly. What about our remaining debt, $450,000? How do we ever pay that off? I stood up slowly, voice cold and firm. That's your problem to solve now. I'm not your father. I'm not your financial savior. Figure it out honestly, like normal people do. Work hard. Sacrifice. Take time. Exactly the way I did when I worked 3 jobs to pay for her college education. Dad, please sign the papers if this is acceptable. Oscar already has the prepared copies. You have until Friday to finalize. I started walking away slowly. Will I ever see you again? Victoria called out softly. I paused briefly, but didn't turn around. Maybe someday when I can look at you without immediately seeing the betrayal. I kept walking steadily. I had spent 40 years in theater, building hundreds of elaborate sets, creating countless perfect illusions. That 20-minute conversation in the park was by far the hardest performance of my entire life. That same evening, back at Gloria's living room, bourbon poured but untouched on the table. Phone buzzed with a message from Oscar. They signed every page of the settlement. House transfers officially to David on Monday. It's finally over. Over. The word somehow felt wrong and incomplete. I opened my phone contacts list, scrolled slowly to Victoria's name, now unblocked after our park meeting. Thumb hovering over the call button. Don't do it. Gloria's voice came from the doorway suddenly. Don't what exactly? Whatever emotional thing you're considering right now. Give it real time. Give yourself proper time to heal. I set the phone down slowly. How much time do you think I need? I don't know exactly. But definitely not tonight. I picked up the bourbon glass, took a small sip, winced at the burn. I thought I'd feel different when it all ended. Satisfied somehow. Vindicated at least. What do you actually feel right now, empty inside? Like I won a terrible game that nobody should ever have been playing in the first place. That's called growing emotionally, even at 68 years old. Phone buzzed again on the table. Text from David. Dad, it's David. Thank you for pushing the settlement. I know that wasn't easy for you. The house will have tenants moving in next month. I'm sending Victoria 60% of the monthly rent income for 5 years to help with their debt. Not forgiveness exactly. Just family support. I closed my eyes slowly. Even my loyal and angry son was already showing mercy. Maybe that's ultimately what I taught them both after all. 6 weeks passed quietly. The courthouse hearing lasted only 15 minutes total. The judge's gavel came down approving the voluntary settlement without issue. Victoria and Charles stood respectfully before the bench, nodding acceptance. No courtroom drama, just simple paperwork and final legal closure. House officially transferred into David's name alone. He decided to rent it out for $4,500 per month. Set up a formal agreement sending 60% of rent directly to Victoria for debt repayment over 5 years. Not charity, but a structured business arrangement with family. Moving truck parked outside a modest apartment complex in Renton, about 40 minutes drive from Bellevue. 40 years difference in lifestyle. They had come full circle back to where they started financially. Just older, wiser, and deeper in debt. I drove there 3 weeks after the final hearing for remaining paperwork signatures. Knocked on their new apartment door. Victoria answered cautiously. Awkward, silent moment before she invited me inside. Their new living room was small and cramped. Furniture clearly from thrift stores. Dramatic contrast to the mansion they briefly owned. Dad, please come in. It's not much at all, but it's clean and ours. That's something at least. Charles called from the small kitchen. Coffee, I just brewed a fresh pot. No, thank you. I won't stay long today. Just need your final signatures on the transfer documents. Victoria sat down slowly at their table and took the papers. David is really letting us pay back some through the rent share. It's not letting exactly. It's a formal agreement. 60% of monthly rent for 5 years. You'll repay roughly $162,000 of what was taken. The rest, consider it the hard cost of your life education. That's more than fair. It's what David decided independently. Not me. She signed carefully, then looked up at me with hope. Dad, have you been able to forgive us at all? Long, heavy pause from me. I understand why you did what you did. Understanding and forgiveness are two different things entirely. Will you ever be able to forgive me someday? Maybe when I can look at you without immediately seeing the year of pain you caused. The trust you completely broke. The family you fractured so deeply. She nodded slowly, fresh tears falling. That's completely fair. I stood up to leave, gathering the signed papers. I need to go now. Will we see you again for holidays or birthdays? Perhaps. I stopped at the door with my back to her. I honestly don't know. That's honest, at least. I don't know if I can sit across a holiday table from you and pretend everything is fine now. Charles spoke up quietly from the kitchen. We don't expect any pretending. Just a future chance someday. I turned slightly. You have 5 years of rent payments to prove you've truly changed. Maybe by then I'll be ready to see it. I left their apartment without another word. A week later, a small package arrived at my door, carefully wrapped. Inside was my old theatrical award trophy from 2005 bronze comedy and tragedy masks I had given Victoria 20 years earlier. A short note in her handwriting. I don't deserve to keep this anymore, but I'll work every day to deserve it again someday. Thank you for the hardest lesson. She had returned my award. 20 years ago I gave it to her saying, "May you always create art that truly matters." Apparently theft and desperation didn't qualify as art. At least she finally noticed the engraving properly. I cried while reading the note. The first real tears I had shed through this entire ordeal. Placed the trophy back on my shelf where it originally belonged. One warm May afternoon, Gloria picked me up for a drive. You've been unusually quiet all morning, just thinking deeply about whether I ultimately did the right thing. The haunting, the revenge, all of it. Did you? We drove slowly to Bellevue and parked across the street from the house on 85th. A young couple with a new baby were moving in excitedly. New tenants. A normal, happy family now inhabiting the house that caused so much pain and conflict. I don't know for sure. I said while watching movers carry furniture inside. I achieved legal justice. The house returned to David. They're facing real consequences now. But I lost my daughter in the process. Maybe permanently. You didn't lose her completely. She's still alive. Still trying hard. Still your daughter at the core. You gave her the hardest possible gift, accountability combined with mercy. It certainly doesn't feel like any gift. Personal growth never does in the moment. For either side. The young father carried a baby carrier carefully. His wife directed movers with smiles. They looked genuinely excited about their future there. That house was supposed to improve my retirement life. Instead, it nearly destroyed our entire family. The house didn't destroy anything. People's choices did. And choices can also rebuild lives over time. You sound exactly like a playwright now. I was married to one for 15 years. Some wisdom sticks permanently. She paused thoughtfully. What now for you, Bill? Well, I'm seriously thinking about writing a new play. Maybe something exploring forgiveness, or the long journey toward trying to forgive. Not entirely sure yet. That sounds like healing beginning. Or maybe just procrastination at my age. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. We sat watching for another quiet moment. The young couple disappeared inside carrying boxes representing their new future. Warm light glowed from the windows as evening approached. New life beginning. New memories forming. People completely unaware of the house's painful recent history. We turned and walked slowly back to the car. In one upper window, for exactly 3 brief seconds, something flickered strangely. A shadowy figure appeared, my own silhouette, hand raised perhaps in farewell or quiet blessing, then vanished completely. Equipment malfunction remaining, or had I secretly activated it remotely one final time for a theatrical signature? Even I wasn't entirely sure. The very last ghost fading away. The final curtain falling at last. December arrived with holiday lights everywhere. Victoria sent a simple Christmas card. Return address from Renton. David sent one too from Seattle. I placed them on opposite ends of my fireplace mantel. Geographic distance as emotional metaphor. 2 months later, another envelope arrived from Victoria. No personal note, just a forwarded letter from Charles's oncologist. Latest scans showed complete remission, cancer completely undetectable in his system, essentially cured permanently. The experimental treatment had succeeded far beyond initial hopes. Attached note from the doctor: your husband's remarkable case is being published in major medical journals. His positive response to the immunotherapy is already helping us save many other pancreatic cancer patients nationwide. He's literally becoming part of important medical history. I read the letter 3 times slowly. Her terrible choice, her theft, her deep betrayal. It had saved not only Charles, but potentially hundreds of future patients through advancing treatment knowledge. It didn't excuse anything she did, but it gave the whole tragedy deeper meaning beyond our personal pain. I kept the letter carefully, slid it into the picture frame next to Victoria's childhood photo on my shelf. Face up now for the first time in many months. Maybe that small act was the quiet beginning of forgiveness, not erasing the painful past entirely, but allowing it to become complicated and human, allowing people to be both deeply wrong and desperately loving at the same time, allowing mercy and justice to coexist somehow. Spring returned gently to the Pacific Northwest. I finally started writing a new play in earnest, working title after the curtain, about a father and daughter torn apart by betrayal, wrestling with revenge versus mercy, exploring the vast space between simple understanding and true forgiveness. Gloria asked once if it was therapeutic writing. I replied, maybe it is. Or maybe I just needed to make sense of everything the only way I ever knew how, through theater and storytelling. Someone wise once said revenge is a dish best served cold. They were completely wrong. Revenge isn't a dish of any temperature. It's a full theatrical performance. You carefully plan it, stage it meticulously, execute it with precision. And when the final curtain falls, you realize the only real audience was yourself, and you're not entirely sure you liked the show you created. I spent 40 long years creating perfect illusions in theaters, made audiences truly believe in ghosts, magic, impossible events. Turns out the hardest illusion of all is convincing yourself that justice and personal satisfaction are the same thing. They're not even close. Justice I ultimately achieved. Satisfaction remained elusive and distant. But understanding that difficult truth came slowly and painfully, like everything truly worth having in life. Victoria is now working 2 jobs steadily. David sends occasional updates. She's paying down debts responsibly, attending regular counseling, trying hard to rebuild her life piece by piece. Charles remains in full remission, humbled deeply, contributing whatever he can financially and emotionally. Will I ever fully forgive her? I honestly don't know yet. Will I see her again in person? Probably yes. Eventually, when the time feels right. Can we ever fully repair what was so badly broken? Maybe not completely whole again, but perhaps enough to function. The trophy now sits proudly on my shelf once more, the childhood photo beside it, face up and visible, small, quiet steps toward something that might someday resemble real peace. Revenge is ultimately theater, but life, true life, is what happens quietly after the final curtain falls, and that's the complicated part nobody ever teaches you how to write properly. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.